Hi, welcome to the Toilet Paper Diaries. In this show, we're going to be looking at dirty tricks in media, fake news, and real views. First thing is why you must protect your reputation. Second thing is how the alpha generation is going to save us all. And the third thing is the top 10 surprises that are going to hit us before the actual results in the US elections. All this and more coming to you now with the Toilet Paper Diaries.
Dave, it is really exciting to be right now doing episode 70 of the Toilet Paper Diaries. Aren't you excited about it?
I'm excited all the time. Everything makes me excited nowadays. I'm just in a constant state of woohoo. And so when we actually get around to do the show, because we used to do it every day, but now we do it, it's like a special treat. It's like when you sit down for your dinner and you can eat your dinner and we say, right, we've got ice cream, but it's not just ice cream, it's ice cream with sprinkles. They go, oh, must be my birthday. It's not, but we care. It's like that once a week we get to sit down because you and I spend all our time online talking to people all around the world, but we don't ever get a chance to do this show. It's once a week and it makes me very excited.
That is great. Well, let's just get started. And I think we had a crazy week. And that's, I think, why we decided that we're going to be talking about the dirty tricks and the what's going on with the media, the fake news, the real views, the fake views. And we can definitely start with this. Now I think they even have a name. I think it's called, I forgot what the name was, but it's the Nancy Pelosi story with she went to the salon gate. It's called salon gate. I mean, very honestly, salon gate. Very honestly, if you are basically more worried about what one person does in the salon by herself than what is going on with COVID, I think you really have to realize your priorities. But that's just me. I mean, that's just my thoughts.
The mad thing about salon gate is, do you do as I do, or do you do as you say you should do? So let's put this in perspective. You got one person who took the mask off because they got wet hair, and there's nobody else around apart from the hairdressers who got masks on, versus a whole convention where nobody will wear masks, and it becomes a big deal that one person does it. I actually think it was a setup, because why would it suddenly hit the press the second it happens? If you've got a celebrity as one of your customers, why would you blow that relationship with that customer unless somebody's offering you cash? Would you do it because, especially if you're a hairdresser, at the end of the day, your job is you've got confidentiality. So when you sit there and you're doing their hair, you're chatting about things, they tell you secrets, you tell them secrets, you have a great relationship as you do, as you make their hair. If you think that going into a hairdresser's, they will shop you for any reason, then not only will you not go back, but nobody's going to go back to that hairdresser's, because it's like going to a doctor. You go to the doctor and say, doctor, I've got a rash. And they say, oh, let me treat that. And then the first thing you do is go on Facebook and say, you'll never guess what they've been up to. It's just not good.
Yeah, and then just think about it. I mean, the fact that it actually took, I think it was about half an hour or something like that this woman, Lini Ekaneni, or whatever her name is, was talking about it during a press conference in the White House. It's just insane to me. I mean, it doesn't matter. Once again, without really getting into politics, just try to see it from the point of view of a foreigner. If you see that is going on in the States, what do you think people outside of the United States actually think about the craziness which is going on in the United States? It's just insane.
It's like the thing that was when people used to argue on the internet. I mean, everyone does it all the time now anyway, but they used to say that if you're arguing with somebody on the internet, it's like two rabbits going like that. Everybody looking at them is just going, what are you doing? Just stop. It looks ridiculous. And that's exactly what this looks like. It just looks like it's so ridiculous. There's so many things that should be at the top of the food chain when it comes to the actual conversations that should be happening, not where you get your hair done. I don't care. You could come out bald. I don't care. Not bothered. You wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. I don't care. That's a problem for the hairdressers. Or not. I don't care. Why is it coming out as a big story? Because it's just slinging mud at each other. And it's just like, I mean, we're going to be talking about this with more predictions about the US elections. And I don't think while we've been compiling this list, we actually mentioned the results of the elections, because that's actually secondary to the bonkers circus that's going to happen all around it in the 60 to whatever 50 days we've got left, even before it started. The only country where you have 4 years of election build-up, everyone else goes, oh, it's election soon, I suppose I better shake some hands. I don't even shake hands anymore. So yes, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And this is only the beginning.
This is only the beginning. And then, of course, we go into the other scandal, which is President Trump talking about negative about the people in the military. And this one is incredibly interesting for me to see, because what is going on is, if you think about it, right now the base for the Republicans are all the military. And right now what's going on is absolutely crazy. Now, whether he actually did it or not, there's no way that we can see it because there's no proof. But the fact is, he didn't go to the cemetery there in France, while the Canadian Prime Minister, he was there, and he actually took away his umbrella, and he said, well, you know, I don't care how wet I'm going to get, and how inconvenient this was. Think about how it was for all the people that were fighting for us during the Second World War. So, I mean, this whole thing is just becoming crazier by the second.
Well, the thing is, and again, we try and avoid going down political lines. Let's just look at individuals as they stand. He's got a track record, on record, of calling John McCain a loser. Now, I was never a big John McCain fan, purely because he was up against Barack Obama at the same time. But since then, I think he's such a noble character. And whether buy into his politics or not, he was a guy who was very straight, believed in principles, and believed in, I mean, he was best friends with Joe Biden, and they went into separate sides of the aisle when it came to politics, but they could separate it and still be good guys. And so there's evidence there. And what I think it ends up doing is it means that not only are the issues about telling the truth that nobody's going to believe, with fake news and reputation management and all the rest of it, but who's going to believe anybody in the future? Because if somebody says, I believe this, it's really hard to get them to change their politics or change their belief system, because if they go on one side, that's where they are forever. Yeah. And that worries me, because you're meant to, and this is the same in the UK, it's the same in many other countries, it stopped being about conversations and stopped being about arguments. It's literally, what color flag are you flying? And that's what we're going to stick with. And that kind of scares me. As for the military thing, I completely believe that the things were said, but at the same time, that's no worse than, I mean, this is only 1 day or 1 week. Every week there's another scandal that would have taken anybody else down. So he said it. So what? That's just him.
No, and you know what I really liked about John McCain was, on a debate that they were having, or it was one of those meetings that they were having, one of the ladies asked him a question that was really negative about Obama. Let's just have a look at this, and so you can see what the honorable person that John McCain was.
I got to ask you a question. I do not believe in, I can't trust Obama. I have read about him, and he's an Arab. He is not. No?
No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues, and that's what this campaign is all about. He's not. Thank you.
I remember watching this after it had come out. I remember watching it as part of the obituary of what happened after John McCain passed. And it really hit me hard that where's all the nobility gone from politics? Once upon a time, you would see it in movies. And now the only time you'll see it is in movies. It doesn't seem to exist. It's like an old guard of people that's disappeared forever, where they used to, and maybe being naive, maybe politicians are always like that, I mean, and always dodgy amongst everything else. But I do think, and we'll talk about this in more detail later on in the show, that Generation Alpha really do stick by their principles. I think you've got a generation coming up who right now are just in their pre-teens, for whom morality and values and honesty and transparency are massive importances to them. Maybe they'll change as they evolve, but they come from a generation that's always open and another generation that shares everything. So your reputation's out there online, even before you're born, it's there. So I think we may see a change, but it's only going to change in politics when the generation that are there right now are no longer in it.
Yeah, well, this is going to definitely influence the election in 2024. 2028 and a number of years to come, because of course Generation Alpha is completely different than whatever that we have seen, and I'm very, very happy to see it. Also, I think Generation C, once again, as we were mentioning a little bit earlier, they are activists, and what we are seeing right now from the politicians, from the all the baby boomers and some other people, is just absolutely shameful. It's really, really horrendous. It's absolutely a shame of what we are right now seeing there.
Got a question for you about reputation management. We've got a situation there we talked about where you've got two people on opposite sides of politics. You've got Nancy Pelosi accused of mask removal when she's got wet hair. You've got Donald Trump accused of saying bad things about the military. What can you put in place as a speaker or as an influencer or somebody who's doing stuff online that would be a credibility booster when you do end up in a situation of being accused of something? Because this is very real. And even if you're not the president of the United States, in your own job, there's a very good chance that he'll turn around and accuse you of something. And if you can turn around and say evidence to the contrary, is that worth creating? Can you create it? Or is it that people will just stop believing anything but the evidence in front of them right now?
That's a great question, Dave. And I think one of the things that we need to do as speakers, and we really need to think about how critical and how important it is to have a lot of evidence. And the question, the word is evidence, about how we think, about our personality, about what our own beliefs are. And we have to let on going there. I mean, I see on lots of speakers that are talking about content. Right now, it is a time for context. Right now, every speaker and their mother are trying to create content. And right now, what we are doing is we are creating context. We are actually trying to put into perspective the way we think, the way our beliefs. And that is what is going to start attracting people the moment that all this mess is over. Right now, the content, because of course there's so much content out of it, it is not really relevant. Right now, we're not doing anything that has to do with public speaking, and that has to, because of course there's a ton of stuff like that. What we need to do is we have to start trying to make people connect and understand who we are. And obviously, we're going to piss off some people which are saying, well, you know, these guys are against Trump or they are against the Republicans. That's not the case. I mean, I have a number of Republican friends that I love and respect. However, I do not really agree with many of their ways of seeing things. But I think by having a conversation where we can actually put things into perspective, people are going to have a better understanding of who Ernesto and who Dave are. And that's why I think it's so important that we take care of our reputation right now. And that's the point on reputation that I think that we want to bring across.
I think you're so right. There's a couple of things I'd like to add to that, which are kind of challenging. First of all, one point is I think that the day of the speaker has gone. I think it's now the day of the, what do we call it? The industry predictor. We had a phrase, forecaster, the industry forecaster. So therefore you do your keynote speech, you say, hi guys, this is me, here's my gift to you, and you get paid. But then you're looking for a long-term relationship with that same client as a consultant to come in and do regular slots, or to help them with the one niche area that you chose that they were interested in getting you in to speak on. Now, in order to do that, you may have to come off the fence and go against everything that a speaker should have done previously, which is not be partisan and not talk about anything apart from your values. You shouldn't talk about race, shouldn't talk about your money, shouldn't talk about gender politics, shouldn't talk about religion, or shouldn't talk about, normal politics, none of that stuff. But maybe now is the time to be counted, because your reputation may need you to say that I took a stand.
Yeah.
I've always been this and nothing's changed. Why are you saying I did this? Now, not many people are going to be willing to put that on the internet, but maybe that's the thoughts that we have to look at. And maybe you don't do it when you first start out. Maybe you do it when you feel reasonably settled. Now, here's another challenge. Could you go from being Republican to Democrat and back to Republican? If you're a pretty neutral person, you can swing both ways in this. So therefore, would that save your reputation, or should you use a specific term? In my opinion. So therefore, you can always fall back on changing it and say, my opinion has changed. Yeah. These are landmines you need to put in place if you're going to take a stand, because they will be held against you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also an important thing to think about, that if we are doing what we are doing, we're going to start becoming influencers, and it is fine. I mean, as long as you don't get yourself and to alienate people, I think that's just a great way to do things. I mean, right now what we are talking about is perspective. Right now has nothing to do with Republicans. It has nothing to do with Democrats. But if we take away those two labels and we think what has been happening, okay, we had the convention, we are in the middle of a pandemic, we had 300, 400 people there. It was a garden, but it doesn't matter. We have 300 people without a mask. And they were really it was just absolutely crazy to think that was going to happen. Nobody said anything. But then we had one person here that was with a hairdresser, with no one else, that was not wearing a mask. And that is just really crazy. That it just doesn't make sense. Same thing happens with the other side of the attacks on the military. I mean, there's plenty of evidence that he has been disrespectful to the to all the military. So that is exactly what you cannot take away. So if you try to put things into perspective, it has nothing to do with being from one side or the other, but you have to be very careful. Because that's how you're going to be judged. What's going to be the evidence and the perspective that you are actually putting together out there for whatever you're saying? And this is going to have a big impact on the election. I can tell you that without a doubt. People are not saying anything, and everything is just the catty. They have this expression in the States, catty way of thinking. But that, of course, is going to have an impact on the way that people are going to actually place their vote in their ballots. Don't you think?
So nowadays, we're not even talking about your conventional influence, because if you take one of the biggest hitters, Mr. Beast on YouTube, he's not even giving away cash as prizes to people. He's giving away instead subscribers.
And I don't know what's happening. We're literally about to hit 1 million subscribers, like that. I gotta say thank you to the Beast crew. And that starts with this thing right here going up on my wall. This is me. And I look like I'm about to murder someone's entire family.
So instead of $1 million, you get 1 million subscribers. When did that change? You can't go shopping with subscribers, but maybe you can.
One of the things that is very important that we just make a huge tie up in the fact that your reputation, it's incredibly important online. Right now is that if you are working with people that can give you a shout out, you can change the world. Previously, it used to be Oprah, for example. Whoever, if you were an author, if you were a speaker or whatever, and Oprah gave you a shout out, you will suddenly become incredibly important. Right now, people like Mr. Beast with a small shout out will completely change the internet. And this is exactly what he's doing. As what we are seeing right now on screen, it's his latest video where he was giving away 1 million subscribers. And the way that worked is, you basically, he has something like 45 million, and he will just request to all his subscribers to please subscribe to his channel. And possibly it's going to be more than 1 million, because of course a lot of people are going to be watching this video. This video got something like about 17 million views in YouTube in the first 24 hours. And of course, we'll continue to get more and more and more people to watch it. And this is one of those things which is very important. And this is, you're going to have to start right now on this time. You're going to start connecting with the people that really that you are really connecting with, not so much in the content area, but more than anything on the context. And that's how you're going to expand your tribe. And you're going to start attracting people which also identify themselves with you. And one of the most important things is that you have to start already figuring out who in the younger generations identifies with you.
And the answer so far is nobody, not even my daughter, and every parent will tell you the same thing. But this is very interesting. When you look at Mr. Beast giving away 1 million subscribers, you have to have a really strong cult relationship with your own audience that they are in on the joke. Because he's basically giving nothing to anybody, but he's saying, you guys have got the ability to follow this guy. I will put this guy through the ringer. And if it's enough fun, click on him. That's the deal. He didn't send it out to everybody and say, right, are we going to do this? He just does it. And they follow him. And it's almost like a symbiotic relationship, like when you see a shark or a whale, and it's got all these plankton or smaller fish eating off it. Yeah. And they need each other because it cleans all the bacteria off.
Yeah, they're called a remora fish.
I don't know, but I've never called subscribers that, but you're probably very close. Now, I remember years ago when I worked in radio, we did a competition called Hands on a Smart Car. And we got one of those smart cars that were, they looked like a shoe with wheels, to be honest with you. We got two of them, a red one and a blue one. We put them in the lobby of the Marriott Hotel in Dubai, really posh hotel. And we invited about 30 of our listeners to go through a number of competition stages to then end up with the ability to put their hands on the car and not leave the car. So they had to hold onto the car and hold it. They weren't allowed to move. They could move and they could chat. They had toilet breaks where they could leave. Obviously, you don't do it next to the car. That'd be horrible. But I think it's every 2.5 hours, you're allowed a 15-minute break. Then you go back to holding onto the car. Now, this is going back some time ago. It's going back about maybe 20 plus years ago. And so we didn't have the ability to put a webcam on them 24/7, but we did have the ability to do radio shows from there, but we didn't do it all the time because the internet wasn't strong enough to be able to set up our broadcast. So we did a couple of shows from there, and it whirled down from 30 people down to 3 people, but it lasted for 2.5 days. And we generated what was the equivalent of about 1 million dirhams worth of press. So if you divide by about 4, it works out to be about $250,000 worth of free press from running that competition, which people talked about for ages and ages. What we're talking about now is literally rehashing a lot of old ideas, but doing it for a new audience in a new way. And clearly it works big time.
Yeah, well, I remember also in Mexico, once they were giving away a Volkswagen Beetle, they put 6 people inside and they were playing the Macarena for as long as they could survive. Actually, I think somebody was 76 hours or something like that inside Volkswagen listening to the Macarena just over and over and over and over again. So I think it's just crazy. Hey, moving on. If you're watching right now, please make sure to subscribe. We're having a lot of great content coming up. Dave, I am in shock with how cities are being changed in after COVID. I mean, I was just talking to a friend in San Francisco, and then they were telling me that people are just basically going to the suburbs, that there's a lot of homeless people just living there in San Francisco and there in Oakland. Same thing is happening in New York. 32% of the New Yorkers, I think it's something like 255 New Yorkers are leaving the city on a daily basis. Right now, if a building hosted 8,000 people, right now there's 500 people working on that building. And the same thing happening in Chicago, the same thing is happening in Houston, the same thing is happening in Dallas, the same thing is happening in Atlanta, the same thing is happening in London and many other cities around the world. I think COVID has completely changed the way that we see cities. And I think before that we know it, I mean, they're going to be just growing weed all over the place, the buildings, and they're going to be abandoned. I mean, it's just crazy what's going on, don't you think?
It's turning into The Walking Dead. I think there's a thing we can talk about with COVID, and it's a phrase that we should watch this phrase, fill the gaps. COVID is going to force people to fill the gaps in real estate, out in the countryside, fill the gaps in business, doing freelancer work, fill the gaps in the whole employment world, in the fact that you look at the employment world, you say, right, I'm not going to get a job anymore. Nobody's offering what I did before, but a number of people do need that skill set. So maybe I'll fill the gap in their company by offering to them and them and them for a lesser price, but I'll work with more people. So overall, I'll make the same kind of money that I made before, maybe even more, but I just got to work a little bit harder to maintain those relationships. I think filling the gaps is really what COVID's forcing people to have to do. But what that means is our entire, I mean, let's face it, this is so sudden. The Industrial Revolution of what, 200, 300 years ago was about getting people out of the fields into the factories. And as you built the factories, you built towns all around them. What COVID's done is the opposite. It said you can't be in a factory next to anybody because you couldn't catch this. So let's send you out to the fields to live and work online where you don't bump into people anymore. Now, when we talk later on about, Generation Alpha, they are a generation that are born out of distance because they're used to using devices to connect to each other. They will not notice anything differently apart from the fact that when they did get to hang out with their friends, they probably just don't get the chance to do that as much. It won't be so brutal for them, but it will mean that you've got a little bit of a distance between what they perceive human emotion should be and what people's emotions should be when you talk to them online. As for cities, there's going to be a lot of cheap real estate of really beautiful properties that look out onto a wilderness in the center of town.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, right now still is not affecting, but also what's happening in the suburbs is that right now the suburbs are being completely. I mean, it's the opposite. I mean, previously it was the suburbs were inexpensive and the cities were very expensive. Right now it's just basically moving the other direction. What's going on in the Middle East? Because of course, I mean, I am aware in Amsterdam things are not really moving that much. They are still remaining pretty much the same because of course it's a very small space. But I know that London is being affected. I know that Paris is being affected. I know that Madrid is being affected. What's going on there in the Middle East, Dubai and other places?
To be honest with you, I honestly can't say. The reason I can't say is because I haven't really been out to have a look at it. I know from talking to people, it's very challenging. A lot of people, especially when it came to airlines, because a place like Dubai in the center of the Middle East, it's a hub for the whole world to go through. I know that India is having a massive problem, and India, for instance, is now worse than Brazil. So fingers crossed, we will see a change in that, and the change can only really come from vaccines, which leads us to a new question. Ernesto, how would you feel if somebody says, I've got a vaccine here? I know it looks like a pen, but in here is something that's been tested on mice, but it will be good for you, I guarantee it. Would you like to take this now? What would you say?
It's an interesting question, and I think it's a question that everybody has in their mind right now. Very honestly, I mean, from experiences in the past, we know that these things are not like, well, now we create it, now you can have it and test it. I mean, this is just something that it takes time. And right now, and once again, especially here in the United States, for political reasons, they are rushing into creating the vaccine. For example, in Mexico, I am good friends with somebody which is involved in I think it's Astra Laboratories, and the same thing is going on there in the Middle East. In Dubai, there's also the same laboratory, Astra. And there's a number of different places where they are little by little working with a solution. And of course, I mean, they are in phases. So it's like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and everything is going directly. So I would definitely believe in vaccination that has been properly tested, and not like what has been happening here. In my eyes, what's going to happen, and that's going to be one of the predictions that we're going to be talking about later on, they're going to try to rush this vaccine for political gain. I mean, guaranteed. And I mean, it is insane.
A combination of Clorox and Tic Tacs. I don't know if I'm ready to be at the forefront. I think social distancing and masks and ordering pizza kind of works for me a bit longer.
Yeah, it is just absolutely insane. And well, the great thing is that at least we have now new generation Alpha, which is pushing to come and save us because of all this mess that baby boomers and Generation X have got us into. More than anything, baby boomers. You know, it's actually very clearly stated in the book, The Fourth Turning, that talks about each and every generation. The baby boomers are the ones, not the baby boomers, but that generation in every cycle for a number of centuries has been the one that comes and messes up the world. And of course, it comes the next generation, which in this case is going to be Generation Alpha, which is going to come and rescue us. So it's actually very interesting to see what these guys are into. And I think what I would like to do, Dave, if you think it's okay, let's just show this video, because this video, it's going to give us an entire scope of what they are, and then we can talk about them. Shall we do that?
Let's see it now.
Baby boomers, millennials, Generation Z, and now Generation Alpha, also known as the I generation. Boy, it seems like we sure like to classify people, huh? Born from 2010 to 2025, the iGen will soon be a 2 billion crowd. What makes them different? They grow up to the voices of Siri and Alexa, and Google Assistant helps them about the house. Many of them were born in the same year as iPad and Instagram. 90% of the iGen kids learn to handle a tablet by the age of 2. Lots of them also get their first personal gadget when they are 3 to 4 years old. An individual approach is everything to alphas. They're used to smart algorithms that create cartoon playlists and choose music based on personal preferences. The iGen sorts the news they see in their digital feeds, and they expect the world to be tailored to their needs and interests. The iGen creates new types of content. They unpack toys, play computer games in the Let's Play format, and do their own voiceovers of their favorite games. Alphas film their DIY ideas, pranks, live streams, and sitcoms. And all these videos get 3 times more views than those created by adult vloggers. Baby Shark, anyone? Alphas consume tons of information every day. To cope with this flow, their brains have to filter it. It only takes the new generation several seconds to decide if the content is worth paying attention to. They have great critical thinking skills and don't waste time on the less important stuff. The borderline between the real and online worlds is really vague to alphas. They see their digital profiles as an extension of reality. 1 out of 8 children vlog about their everyday life. They're used to sharing everything, not only with their friends and family, but also with the rest of the world. And they expect this world to be the same as they see it on the screen. Online education will give alphas the biggest part of the knowledge they'll need, and lots of them won't have to pay for college. Artificial intelligence will most likely replace a lot of jobs. The new generation will have to guess which skills will stay in demand and develop them. A big part of the iGen will be freelancers. They'll never work for just one employer. Alpha's parents are millennials. That's almost a synonym to instability. That's why the new generations used to constantly moving their moms and dads changing careers and struggling with financial problems. All this makes alphas more mobile. They also adapt to all kinds of changes way easier than others. They are best friends with their parents and spend more time together than other generations. Tech-savvy alphas can give their parents some digital tips. They often share the same interests, create common vlogs, and play online games together. The upbringing process has also become different. Family media consumption traditions have become a big deal. Alphas will live longer. Many of them will likely celebrate their 100th birthday. First, they have the example of their parents who try to eat healthily and work out. Second, there's already huge progress in medicine. Artificial intelligence also helps. Alpha kids have digital health trackers from day one. In the future, there will be even more AI involved in the whole process. That's why diagnosis and treatments will become more accurate and efficient. Generation Alpha can shop online, go to places in self-driving cars, and let mobile apps and AI take care of other things. It means they'll have more free time than previous generations to do something they really enjoy. For example, take care of their mental well-being, get new skills, or develop their creativity. Doing most of the things online does save the iGen a bunch of time, but can damage their soft skills. Alphas are digitally connected and just one click away from the rest of the world, but they have less human contact than other generations. No wonder they are sometimes called Generation Glass or Screenagers. There's always some sort of glass screen between them and the real world. Transparency is one of the key features in their universe. Alphas can always tell if someone is being insincere in their digital space. They learn it at school. These days, there are special lessons on how to tell facts from fakes, and whoever tries to feed them a fake loses their trust. Generation Alpha has high moral standards and feels more responsible for the Earth's future. They're taught to be eco-friendly when they're still toddlers, by watching their parents and favorite cartoon characters recycle. Conscious consumption means a lot to the iGen. They also expect other people to support these ideas and promote them in their vlogs. Screenagers will have to work on developing their emotional intelligence. It'll soon be the only thing in which people can be superior to robots. EI includes the ability to understand other people's emotions. Some companies, including Elon Musk's, already test potential candidates' EI through online games. One of the tasks is to guess which emotion the person in the photo is feeling. More alphas will start their own business than any other generation. They have all the necessary resources for it, including access to all kinds of information and people via the internet and social networks. Many alphas will try entrepreneurship early in life and fail, but they'll learn from their mistakes and most likely succeed in the future. Alphas love to relax by both making and watching content other generations find meaningless. Platforms like TikTok have grown massively in recent years. They let the iGen kids express themselves creatively by using a bunch of special effects and simple editing tools. Alphas are decision makers and powerful influencers. Their parents have already started to choose their tech purchases based on their kids' needs, and it's just the beginning. As they grow up, Generation A will push progress forward. They'll focus on building a world with no borders or formalities, more flexible and socially responsible than today.
I love that. I love that. It's so fascinating, and I can see that for my own 9-year-old daughter, Maya, just how much she embraces the gadgets, the connectedness, the love of people. She's always asking questions, and her questions are all about, why do people do this? What happens next? Real moral questions that when I was younger and I was her age, I don't think I bothered asking. I think what I just accepted is that the grown-ups knew what they were doing. These guys don't believe anybody knows what they're doing. But here's the biggest thing. We know the alphas will save the world, but I don't think we're going to save it with us in it. I think that they want to clear us all out, because they'll ask us questions, but they don't really care about the answers, because they've already made up their answers. They're just qualifying whether we know the same answers. They're more tech advanced than we are. They're connected with everybody else. And apart from the fact that we're paying their school fees and giving them a roof over their head and filling the fridge with lots of goodies for them, they don't actually need us so much. Now, what I find fascinating is how quickly that's going to bring the demise, in my opinion, of school and university as we see it. These are kids who have a mindset about downloading an app, reading how to fix it and how to use it by watching a video, and then they've got a new skill set. That's how they're going to approach school. That's how they're going to approach university. And most of them will turn around and start running businesses in their teens. And if you're running a business in your teens and you can scale it up and scale it down, why would you want to invest in going to get a job with anybody else or going to a university to get some skills that aren't as much fun as what you've been doing your entire life?
Did you see that right now, if they open a YouTube channel, there's actually there in the video, they get millions of views instantly when we are struggling to get 100 views in our videos.
My daughter sat at the dinner table today and she said, "Daddy," I said, "Yes, dear." She said, "I've got 300 more subscribers than you." And I was thinking, I want to punch your lights out and you're 9 and I love you more than anything in the world. And it's just an unfair world. But this is a key to where we are. We are in an old paradigm where so many of the things that we lived by, that we learned, that we worked towards being part of, don't have any relevance anymore.
Yeah.
They really don't. And so we have to get with the new program. We have to get with the gadgets, get with the gamification, get with the eyes and the ears that these guys see. Because from the age of 2, their language is all about working out games and working out how to do stuff. And it doesn't mean they spend all the time just playing games, but they understand algorithms and the growth and creativity involved in it more than we ever will. So can we stay relevant?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point for most people because, I mean, I think you and I, Dave, I mean, we try to stay ahead of the curve. We like to anticipate what's happening. And right now, for example, if we start seeing how the schools are working and how they are implementing websites like Quizlet or Kahoot and how they're gamifying everything. And then we see how most speakers and how most experts are still doing stuff. You go like, my goodness, I mean, these guys are in prehistoric times. Right now, everything has accelerated so dramatically that I definitely think that you guys need to keep an eye into everything which is happening with Generation Alpha and start listening to them and start listening to Generation C also. And now, before we run out of time, I think we have to bring our top 10 predictions of what's going to happen before the US election.
This is something that we're going to get into a lot of trouble for. We try and keep it completely neutral. We're going to be talking about stuff from an observer's point of view. We're not going to talk about who will win, who will lose. We'll keep that for everybody to vote on. But just some things that we've seen happening, driving trends that I think that the people in charge of the spin of the elections will say, "Ooh, that worked. Let's get some more of that." And that's what we're going to be doing in our top 10. It's the predictions of what is going to surprise you, regardless of what happens with the end result from the elections. So do you want to take the first one?
Absolutely. I think number 10, we have to talk about what all the revelations and all the secret videos and all the books and all the stories which are going to come up. I think right now we're just about to enter into the craziest months of 2020. Mind our words. I mean, 2020 has been like a year like no other. But I think we're just about to enter the craziest 2 months of 2020, and we're going to start seeing constantly if it's going to be a book, if it's not going to be the daughter, or possibly it's going to be whoever. Everything is going to start getting chaotic. It's going to be secret videos. It's going to be tapes. It's going to be books. It's going to be stories, and it's just really going to get more bonkers than we have ever seen it. That's my number 10 prediction.
Number 9, the gloves coming off before and after the presidential debate. You got 2 old guys putting everything into their reputations and for different reasons wanting to be in charge of America and therefore really have a massive influence across the world. It's everything to play for. Polar opposites, different backgrounds, different reputations, and it's going to get nastier. Right now, there's so much given to just poking fun and claiming it's fun, but they know that it sticks. You say something that's fake, people will start to believe it is real and will start to champion it. Even if it gets withdrawn and taken down, the damage is still done. When that video went up recently about Joe Biden falling asleep while being interviewed by CNN, it wasn't even Joe Biden. It was Harry Belafonte from an interview 10 years ago where he fell asleep and they had to try and wake him up. And the picture of Joe Biden looking down like this was actually him looking at some notes when he was being interviewed alongside Hillary Clinton. But they superimposed the two together. It had millions of hits and views. And afterwards, the White House said, oh, it was just a parody. We just did it for fun. Doesn't matter. That's the game that's being played now.
Yeah, it's super, super nasty. And I think it's just going to be crazy. Now on number 8, and for this one, we have already mentioned it a little bit earlier. And I think that this one is going to come up somewhere like at the end of September, beginning of October. We're going to have suddenly the magic vaccination that everybody now, there's already there. And what I think the interesting spin on this one is going to be, because of course, I mean, most of the anti-vax and most of the people which are into, they are on the Republican sides. I wonder how they're going to spin it, but guaranteed, just before we're getting closer to November, there's going to be the magic cure coming from COVID that nobody has tried, and it's going to be controversial beyond belief, and it's going to be just eating up the news cycles on a daily basis, like for about 3 days before we go into our next.
And the thing is, you won't be able to tell maybe whether it's working or not, because the facts and figures of what's actually happening will be skewed. So you never really know what's working, what's not working. There'll be people taking it just because they've been told they should take it. But that's the way it's going to work. And it's going to happen before November. After November, there's no point because the election's finished. Yeah. We hope. We hope. Well, number 7, the withdrawal of troops from somewhere to make a reputation, give a point about the promises that were made. So we heard about the troops being withdrawn from Germany. That was a promise that was made. It's probably going to be somewhere like Afghanistan. 8,000 troops or so in Afghanistan may well get taken back just to prove a point. I said I'd bring the troops home. Let's bring the troops home. Now, considering that right now, Trump's going to do a lot to make sure that the military is still on his side, that would be a major step in the right direction for him to say, I care about our guys. That's why I'm bringing them home. And it will be about scoring points. It might not be the most sensible way to do if you're policing the world, and it will throw whichever country you're talking about, Afghanistan, into all sorts of crazy chaos. But hey, this is about winning an election, and I do believe something like that is going to happen.
Yeah, we did a video. On the 13 keys to the White House recently, which right now it has gone viral in our channel, and I'm very happy about that. But one of the things was, of course, the win, the military win, and whatever, and that actually goes into our 6th prediction that they're going to try to have some sort of agreement or a settlement with Iran or North Korea, just to say that there was a improvement in the foreign relations. However, as they say, too little, too late. I do not know if that's going to happen, but that's also one of our predictions of what's going to be happening. So Dave, go with number 5.
Number 5, I would say that we're going to see a lot more law and order rioting. So it's going to be a case that 42% of America will believe that every city is in flames, and it will be the law and order president that's the only person that can go in and save it. That's the battleground that he's playing right now as Trump, and it's kind of working because many people are in fear, and there's only one person that they know who can go and fix it. But here's the basic truth about it. America's not in flames any more than it was before, but it's being spun to be like that. It may well be that it's being spun enough that it will turn into that heading towards the elections. And that's a massive problem for everybody.
Yeah, this reminds me of that film with Robert De Niro, Wag the Dog. I mean, it's exactly what it is. It's just basically, I was just looking at some pictures of somebody that I know that lives in Portland, and they were saying, oh my goodness, Portland is a big mess. And I mean, this was this person that was there in Portland. He says, there's nothing happening here. I mean, we're really, really having a great time, and it is very beautiful because, of course, it's the end of the summer, and it is just great. So it is basically that. I mean, I think our point is, doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on, don't believe the craziness which is happening there, because it's everything about manipulation. So that is just absolutely crazy. And that brings us to number 4, which is there's absolutely, and this is already happening. They're already saying, well, you know, the if it is not the postal service, it's going to be something else, but the election is going to be rigged. And this scandal is going to start getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Rigging of the election, just in preparation in case President Trump does not win the election. That is going to be one of those things which is going to start getting a life of its own. And it's going to be very interesting because, of course, that is actually the one that makes me very scared. We're going to be, because of this, we're going to be inundated with conspiracy theories, QAnon, and all these things are going to go absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts.
If you ever thought you'd heard conspiracy theories, you have no idea what's just about to start. It is just happy hour for conspiracy theories that will be politically driven, even if they're just the worst possible ideas. You won't believe the sexual things that everyone is going to get labeled with, or the things they did when they were at school that they didn't do, and all the rest of it will just come back to damage as many people as possible from both sides. Why? Because you have a press that just loves to run with those stories.
Yeah.
There's nobody turning around saying, right, don't do this, don't cover this, let's keep it professional, because if you do go professional, somebody else is going to have the little dirty story, and they know they're going to outsell you, because people love that. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to go back in its hole. But on top of that, I know you're just about to say something, whether China, Russia, or Iran fixed it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or somebody else we haven't even looked at yet. Could be the UK, for as far as I know.
Yeah, and I think, well, I mean, you'll start now with number 3 in a moment, but I think an important thing is there's a website, and I recommend you to see. It doesn't matter in which side of the aisle you go. It's called
QAnon.com.
No, not that one. It's called The Road to 270 or 270towin.com, I think it is. And it basically just shows you the different paths towards reaching the electoral college. And it is just incredibly interesting to see what is going on. And because of that, I mean, what our third prediction, it really makes me incredibly nervous. So Dave, go ahead and tell us what number 3 is.
Yeah, number 3 in our predictions before the elections happens is this. There'll be a complete refusal to believe the actual results, regardless of the numbers, regardless of the testimonials, regardless of the counts and recounts. It will just be that they were nobbled. And I also think that what's going to happen is there will be nobbling created as examples that there were nobbling. If you don't know what nobbling means, it means cheating. There will be at least one or maybe even 2 or 3 examples of mail-in ballots being done the wrong way, just so then they can rubbish the whole thing like a bad apple in a barrel, just to prove that it didn't work out the way that it should have gone. Because if it does work out that way and Trump wins, he'll say, despite everything, I managed to win. If he loses, he'll say, told you, despite everything, I should have won, but look what it did. It's a great spin. It's a great way of doing it. But the problem it's going to have knock-on effects will last for generations. And it will also change the process of politics in the US after this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number two.
My number two, and this is, of course, something that we do not know of what's going to happen. But in case Trump doesn't win the election, that there might be a non-peaceful transition of power, that he's going to refuse to leave, that he's not going to be very happy handing over the control of the White House. And this is not going to be the end of the story. I mean, this is going to be, I mean, obviously, constitutionally, he cannot do it, but there's going to be something happening. In case he doesn't win the election, this is going to become a big, big issue. And I think that the tweets are going to be there. And I think this one, regardless of who wins the election, the damage has already been done. And possibly then you can talk about the number one prediction that we can talk about, because I think it's worrisome.
I agree. And number one on the list of predictions before we have elections of the surprises that are going to hit us is this. Regardless of who wins, the damage leading up to the elections is going to make a big problem for everybody. You'll have a divided country, whether Trump is in or not. If he's not in, he'll still continue to do what he's doing from the outside of politics. Or if he's still in, he'll do what he's doing from the inside of politics. There may well be rioting, there may be militia that makes a circle around the White House. It could be a ton of things. But what it will do is it's going to take a long, long time for it to heal. It's going to take a long time for it to heal barriers that stood up between families who voted different ways. It's going to be a long time before the different sorts of the two parties actually see any way they can play together on any policies. And it's also going to do a huge amount of damage to people's respect about America. If it can be done in a clean transition, whichever way it goes, people will still turn around and say, you know what, they did that right. So I think that despite everything, I'd hate it to happen, but I worry about what happens after the elections for lots of different reasons, not least for next generations to come.
Yeah, I fully agree. And once again, I mean, we are not Americans. We are seeing this from an outsider's point of view. And I think it's okay to have a perspective which is different than being either red or blue. And I think this is one of the interesting points. I mean, we have to find out a way in how everybody can try to live together. It's okay if you have a different way of thinking. And believe me, I can tell you guaranteed, the Democrats are not North Korean communists. I'm sick and tired of listening to this BS. I mean, you think they are so extremes. And of course, it's just that the Republicans are not Nazis. So we have to, I mean, let's try to go into the center so that everybody actually tries to communicate properly with each other. But anyway, this conversation is just crazy. But I hope that you enjoyed the craziness of what we were talking about, of our predictions. And we will come up with more predictions in the next episode of the Toilet Paper Diaries in our top 10 lists. Dave, we have done now 70 episodes.
Wow. I never thought we'd get past 10. I thought we'd just do a couple and then after 2 weeks, we'd be out of lockdown and we'll just go, that was fun. Do you remember when we decided to start a TV show? But here we are, 7 months after? Still doing it, still a pleasure. For that, I'm grateful. But the rest of it is up and down as to what we enjoy. But it's still work in progress. I still love working with you, Ernesto. And hopefully everyone still enjoys watching the show that I've been watching. And thank you for being with us for 70 shows. On to 100 doesn't surprise me. Yeah. And the 100th episode may well be around about Christmas, New Year time anyway. So lots to look forward to for us and for you. Thanks for watching the show. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you watch all the videos over here. There's 2 choices for you. Or, of course, I'm Dave Crane coming from Dubai.
And this is Ernesto Verdugo coming from Houston.
And I think we should send a message. Hold on.
What is this?
Subscribe.